It's only when I start the video and I'm about to say chip ahoy that I realise I don't have any chips. It's a good idea, okay, and the vibe is there, you know, we're eating crisps or potatoes normally. Just imagine me eating it at the moment. Look at that. Cute. Right, so chip ahoy. Yesterday I had a mechanics over. Incredible. So it was a planned excursion for them. A follow-up, call it, since they were here last time, about a month ago. So they fixed a couple of things that they were scheduled to fix. Then they found a few other things. So one of them was the fact that the whole thing is just wired incorrectly. And I think I might try and do a video later where I sort of point to how the wiring is going and pretend I know what they're all called. Anyway, this whole thing is wired completely wrong and might be the reason why it's only putting out, was it 3 or 4 amps into from my alternator to my batteries. See, there's no point in me making these videos, I realise, because I have no idea what I'm talking about, and obviously I'm giving out the wrong facts. It's like this is a commoner's guide to boat issues. It's not doing the job, which means that I have to run the engine for quite a long time for it to actually charge the batteries, unless I have solar input, what's coming from the sun, you know, which at the moment, you know, is quite not a lot. I'm in a good spot at the moment, actually. I had what was it 35 watt coming in at one point. It's pretty good. I've been living on like 10, you know. Anyway, I think I'm just gonna point this thing, I believe, relay. That thing, I believe, alternator. That thing, definitely leisure batteries. And then we're going here. Oh, then we're going down to the starter engine, I believe. Starter motor, if that's what it's called. Like down at the bottom here somewhere. And then in to the starter batteries. I think that's all I can do. Anyway, the point is, it's all done wrong. I wish I could tell you how and how it should be. He did tell me, but I can't remember, and I was meant to ask him again, and I forgot. I think that's as much as I can give. Then there was oil coming out of the air filter, not great. Then there was lots of oil all over the engine, which you couldn't really figure out where it was. And then we saw that the stern gland, which is what you twist to grease something in behind the engine for it not to get water not to get in, something like that. That one is not fitted correctly, so when you twist, it's like this long. But in the part where it's attached to the wall, all the grease is coming out between that bit and the wall, and then but it's not possible for me to see that unless I really twist my head underneath, you know, and you wouldn't really do that because you assume it's done correctly. But never assume is what we've learnt. Anyway, that's dripping into the bilge, or into the bottom of the engine room, call it, and also onto the alternator belt. Not great. So the belt is screeching, which is why when I start the engine it goes, which is not great. Apparently there's a spray I can put on as well, but the belt, the mechanic had a belt, but it was like 0.5 millimeter too small, so it didn't fit. So you had to take it off again, and that was a pain of a job apparently. Then it was the fact that it takes a lot for the engine to start. I haven't really noticed because what I've been doing apparently is not right. You can do it a few times, I think, but you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't have to do it, which is, you know, you start the engine by boop and then blowing it for a minute, especially in the cold, sometimes 3 times a minute, and then you go, and here you're supposed to, like on a car, you're just supposed to go and it starts, but I'm going and it starts. So it takes a long time for me to do that, and apparently there's a lot of current going about. You don't want to do that too much because you will ruin the engine. But obviously I didn't know that, but that's the only way the engine has started for me to do that. So that's something to fix. Apparently there was something to do with maybe doing a compression test, and how inside of the glow plugs, obviously inside, that's where you do the compression test, but something about how the diesel is going into the engine. Apparently it should be like a nice little mist, but it could also be clogged or broken, and it just doing like a like that, and that could be the reason why it starts slowly. And there's also a lot of white smoke coming out. Anyway, so those things needs to be fixed. But the worst thing that up until now have been heavy on my heart, and we think we've figured it out, we thought I had a diesel leak from the tank and into the water. So we've made like a nice little rainbow situation going on every time I stepped on the stern. But under recent discoveries and research in terms of looking, we've figured out that there's an air hole or air filter, not an air filter, but there's an air hole for the diesel tank, and you shouldn't fill over that one, which might be completely obvious. But I didn't know about this air hole, and I wasn't the one who filled the diesel. You know, that's the boat that does that, and they just might not have known, or anyway. So obviously it looks like it's been filled over this little hole, which means it's dripping out from that hole because it's completely wet underneath there, and it's diesel. But the thing about diesel leaks, you know, it always looks more severe than it is. So it's not like a lot, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't get too, like, this is it now, hasta la vega, I'm sure that's a word. But it was quite distressing, because it meant that if it was a diesel leak, it might still be, I doubt it, but it might still be. If it was, I would have to take it up to a dry dock, because obviously it's on the waterline. We thought it was on the waterline, but you can't start welding stuff on the water. And also it's in a diesel tank, so you might have to take the diesel out and get that sorted. And that would have been quite pricey, because you have to get it up on the dock. Only a dry dock, which is cheaper than a lift out. But my problem is that I'm going to black the bottom or the hull, and I was supposed to do that now, but the spaces are already taken until October. So anyway, but to lift it out, only lifting it out is £700. Then you have to pay for the blacking. Essentially it's about £2,000. But if I had to do the dry dock just to fix that, I couldn't do blacking at the same time. First, because I want to do the hull plate, and you can't do that when it's standing on something. And also they didn't have time to do both. There's a reason why I have to wait till October. So that's a relief, that hopefully it's not that, which means I can do all of these other things on the water. Who knows when. Anyway, on brighter news, the water pump sorted itself out. I did not buy a new one. Probably should, in case it stops again, but it's been working now for a week. I think it might have been the float that I had, again, cleaned so well, but apparently, you know, what I was doing was just taking it up and down on that little switchy switch, like multiple times. So maybe there was something inside that I couldn't clean because it was inside the mechanism. Anyway, since then, completely fine, so that's really nice. Yeah. 2 days ago, I went on a boat. Not a boat, I went for a boat with Maya again. Here's some footage of that. This is my first time doing a lock up, so not going down but filling up the water while I'm in the boat, and it is quite a experience, because the water is pretty much rushing towards me in the front. But it's really nice because this is a electric one, so you have mine's up there just clicking a button instead of like pushing things, which means that the sluices go up and down in a controlled manner, so it doesn't start like pouring out. I'll do a better video. Like here, you can see if it's pouring out, but if it's a manual, you can decide how much water. Obviously, you don't want it to pour out too much because it will, you know, it can tip the boat over. Mice against the sun. Ooh! There she is. I feel like this moment, sorry, I'm just coming from the edit, needs the explanation because we, I mean, I'm talking a little bit about it later, I've seen, but I have not actually mentioned this. So we went up in the lock and then we were going to fill up water inside the lock. And I did that last time. So we are inside the lock and it's filled up and we're just filling up water. Then this woman with a boat comes along and she comes in and she says something to Maya, and I come out and I'm like, hey, and she says something and I thought I understood what she was saying. Well, I didn't, but I was like, oh, whatever, I'm sure it's fine, whatever she said. And then again, I'm inside and suddenly I just see us going down. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? So she was in a rush, so she needed to use the lock, which obviously I was in the lock, so it's within her right. But there was just nowhere else I could fill up water, essentially. So obviously I'm on the bottom. We have to fill up the lock again and do it all again while we are, as you just saw, filling up water. And then obviously the hose, my eyes on land, and the hose is falling in, and like the water is pouring and it's cold and it's absolutely horrible. We go up again, you know, as we do, and we keep filling. Then when we've started boating again, we meet a woman coming down with another boat, and we go, well, haven't we just seen you with a different boat? And it turns out that she was moving two boats, that either, I'm not sure if she lived on both of them or like owned both of them, or if one of them was a friend's, but essentially she'd moved one boat, left the boat, traveled by car, found the other boat, and done the other boat. And obviously at that point it was getting quite dark, so she was in a rush, so obviously it was very much in her right to leave us in the lock going up and down. It was such an experience. That's why things took a little bit of time, which again, I'm mentioning a bit later. But yeah, that was that. It was a long one. It was a long, cold, and in the end dark one, because it took a lot of time to fill up water, for example. One of the reasons why it took a lot of time to fill up water, because the water pressure was absolute shit. I think we stood it for half an hour. Usually with good water pressure, I can fill up my tank in 15 minutes. And I still wasn't done. I had to go because someone else wanted the water. Anyway, that was a nice update, wasn't it? I probably missed a lot of things. We'll get back to it. Ship ahoy!